And welcome back for the second champion select of the day. It's going to be Dusty versus Bifrost. Let's see if Dusty are capable of bringing something different. Was it the champion select? Was it the team composition? I don't think so.
I think it was a little bit lost in execution.
Yeah, mid-game plays was the problem. The two really big plays, one of the bot lane towers went wrong, the dragon fight that went really wrong, and it really snowballed from there. Credit to Bifrost for coming back from it, and also credit for not falling too far behind. But I don't think Bifrost is going to be completely happy with the early game either, so stuff to work with.
I am, though, if not a hater, I am really skeptical when a team runs it back. So I would expect something different to come out here, whether that is Buckland taking the Akali off of Bifrost and playing it himself, or whether you want to maybe change... I don't think you want to change the duo, because I think that Jinx Leona works really well, unless you want to lock in the Nautilus yourself, because you think it's that important, and then allow the handshake with the AD carries to happen.
I would agree if it wasn't for the fact I actually think the early game went pretty well. And I think if you were saying, look, actually this was a great plan, we just messed up, and I think there's an argument to that after how the early game went. Maybe you do run it back. Like, this is a time when I wouldn't hate it as much as I do agree with you. It was working until they kind of messed it up a bit, right? So I wonder whether they do something a bit similar. I doubt a Master Yi first pick would be the real option.
Oh, it's not a Jinx, it's the Nautilus. 100% win rate on FGG, and she keeps doing it.
I think Nautilus has been like such a pivotal champion for every single team so far. I felt like that the fact that Nukes didn't take it in the Riddle series was really detrimental to how the game went. And I feel like you just snatch away the Nautilus. It has really good reach on the back line. And also if Bifrost want to lock in Akali here, Nautilus destroys Akali in the fights.
Horrible. I mean, this is also like you've seen the priority of Thresh drop down and Nautilus go up over the last few months. And part of it's Glacial, part of it's how much people really rely on the CC. Interesting to see they've gone towards the Nart early, and that is a bit of a shift because obviously Dusty banned that out in the second phase last time. So I think there was a little bit of Shikari. He played pretty well on the Akali in the mid game, but did get a little bit pressured early on. I think it's easier to play weak side on the Gnar, and you're a bit more versatile in your play patterns. So considering he's a very good Gnar, I don't hate that. I just wonder what Aleph will have to answer into it, and they're still going to get the Jinx as a response anyway.
I think this is a Jinx Zhao again. He has to be a Jinx Zhao, especially now that you have the Nautilus as well. I don't think anything can...
I mean, maybe Viking goes to the Lee Sin if he's feeling more comfortable on that, but also just early Akali.
We mentioned, unless Buckland wants to take the Akali away from Fury, but now you have the Nautilus, you're not necessarily too scared, but I feel like Buckland on Akali this season has been so good to watch.
What this does mean now that Bifrost get their pick of jungler, and then they get to ban 2 more. And then you've got to see what does Viking have. Well, I mean, honestly, they could literally pick Jhin out, ban Lee Sin, ban something else. Or just go for Nidalee and ban Lee Sin and Jhin if you fancy. It'd be a bit of a madness. So yeah, there's the Lee Sin for C-Boy. You just ban the Jhin out another jungler and ask, okay, Viking, what you got?
So it's a focus now on the champion pool of support. On the other side, it's to take Viking away from this one. But Viking has so many champions that I don't know if you can actually focus them down. Rek'Sai is one of those.
Right? Yeah.
The early game, but
I think Jhin as well.
Jhin is still available.
I think you're pretty happy playing Trundle into this team.
Yes, you are.
Pretty true, actually.
You've got Aphelios down the bot lane for Bifrost. You can visit that lane so many times. Having the Nautilus and the Jinx down there with a Trundle, like having immobile carries is like what Trundle thrives on. He'll be okay into Lee Sin later on. He can steal the defenses from the Mega now later on in the fights as well, and he can provide the front line. So I don't think the champion pool in the jungle is going to get pinned too hard. You also have the Diana. Do you want to go towards there? But they felt like the hard ganking junglers for Viking is better to take those away, the Jarvan and the Rek'Sai, and then leave open things like the Xin Zhao or the Trundle. And I think this has got to be like another Xin Zhao. Like Jinx Zhao is like the best combo.
And when we've seen what looks really, really good Viking, it's not just champions that can gank, it's champions that can engage team fights or start picks. That's really true for Volibear and Jhin Zhao, but things like the Hecarim, the Jarvan are much more towards the I can start a team fight, not just go in. Jhin Zhao's, yes, you're not bad in terms of damage, but you're less about pure CC, and that could be a little bit of an issue. The Leona gets through, and obviously that's after a couple support bans. I think Duel's pretty happy with that. What do you have now as a jungler you want to look for, Viking? I mean, Xin Zhao's the obvious one, but maybe they're feeling happy to play into it.
I'm looking more towards Aleph, what Aleph wants to play.
Yeah, you got
I'm
the
looking
counter
at
pick.
Aatrox here. Flank with
Camille,
Akali.
maybe.
I don't think Camille is going to be the answer here. I like
played
it
it
diving
like
in the
on the
back line,
other
but I'm
day.
thinking this is going to be either probably a Gragas or maybe an
that bit of
Aatrox
special.
situation here. I think Aatrox is pretty fine playing into the Na. The Gragas is also pretty fine because he gets tanky later on to play into the Na. And you also have like 3 melees diving in, and having the Everfrost onto the Gragas and the peeling is going to be like, I think, super useful for the team. But they're
If they
gonna
pull a
put the
Bifrost.
Akali top lane again.
Pull a
It's a
Bifrost.
thank you for the idea. Let's bring the Akali, let's bring the Ahri, and now Fury knows how to play
It's
against
a double
this.
dive. It's a
Yeah.
double dive assassins in the backline. I don't mind it at all.
Like, it's been a sort of semi-answer into Na for a while
This
as
is
well.
lovely. Versus Akali, versus Zari. This is dreadful.
The Uno reverse.
What I'll say is that Veigar Nara is really nasty because you can literally slam people into the wall. Really lovely on that front. Plus, you've got between Event Horizon and the Sentinel turret, and then Leona, so much zone control, along with people who can displace you into the Veigar cage. If Bifrost are there at objective first, Dusty are going to have a really tough time getting into the river.
I think what is going to be really difficult for Dusty is to find a way to actually touch Odi. Because
Yeah,
there's like
that's pretty
Cage,
hard.
Nah, Listen Kick, Leona around him. At this point, Bifrost do not have to engage. And remember, every time a team think they're better on paper, they're like, we're scaling here. You literally have Veigar, who's ever scaling the mid lane, and Aphelios, who's one of the most hard scaling ADCs later on. So it's like, as long as we scale and allow them to engage us, which so far they haven't been, Dusty has not been successful on, we'll just defend, we'll peel, and we'll just win the fight.
What do you guys take on this one? Dusty?
3-0, baby. I'm winning my prediction
It's a
today.
3-0. Well, he switched easily
What do you
because he
think?
said Dusty on the first game, and now it's a 3-0 for Bifrost.
I think this is a Bifrost win, though.
Okay.
Let's see if the Akali and Ahri can get vision control. Things get a bit different then. I still think Bifrost have an easier time of it.
So for you, it is Bifrost. For you, it is Bifrost as well. Well, last
We were
time
wrong
they
last time.
voted, they went for Dusty, and Dusty lost that game. Let's see if the curse continues. But before we do that, we should toss to the casters. It is Viperoon, and it is Nightmare.
The strategy is working perfectly. Dusty come in, they lose, they make Trouble Link switch and say they're going to
Can you
the
like
Bifrost
hold
go
like a whiteboard behind me? Like it's like we're going to come in, we're going to have a 9-0 win streak. We're going to lose the first game to. Yeah,
Does that
that's there we go. We have our own like little version of like the grooming that works fine. See, the funny thing is, that's your notes from last series. All it says is 100% win rate. Now I don't know what you were saying last series.
I think it was just Gulborg just writing how Dusty had done in playoffs up to this point.
The funny
but-
thing is, running the 100% win rate, there are a couple of champions in this game, weird segue, that have a 100% win rate for their players too. So initially, when that Akali was going into the mid lane on the hands of Backland, that would have been a 100% win rate champion for him. Of course, that would have towards the top lanes. That's no longer the case. He was 6-0 on that champion. However, FGG 5-0 on the Nautilus. So he's still remained, not winless, the other one, defeatless. 100% win rate.
Undefeated.
Undefeated. That's like, words are hard sometimes. But still has that champion on a very good winning record. And so a little bit of comfort champions coming out from the side of Dusty.
Absolutely, on the side of Bifrost. Very, very strong composition. Hate Veigar, simple as.
Can you play that champion?
I ban that champion every game.
Okay, maybe I got that wrong then. My information is incorrect.
I've been outspoken about my hatred for this champ, and now it's going to Hands of Fury, who has been in Veigar jail before
Yes.
and may well be in it in
Actually-
this game as well.
So actually, well, we've got a bit of time in this early game when we're looking at this as well. We look at that Veigar as well. And one thing which Sam said on the desk was about zone control. Now, one of my favorite teams of all time in one of my favorite regions was Dead Nation Focused Me a couple of years back because they had a Heimerdinger mid who, out of meta, would pick Heimerdinger every single game. And I think that's a great comparison here with the Veigar because they used to play it alongside the Aphelios, put down Aphelios turrets, have the zone control from the Yordle mid laner and say, look, walk into us, it's not going to be a fun time. Now, obviously, Veigar has massive ability to just sit there and say, you have all this mobility. Well, how about, have you considered not having that mobility and shutting them down incredibly quickly? So Bifrost, if they get lane push, they get to shove into different lanes and get towards the objective first. Very hard for Dusty to play around. However, on the other side, if you lose control of vision, which again Sam was saying on the desk, and then get to the objective first to the side of Dusty, you have that mobility to get lots of picks if you don't approach in a safe manner from Bifrost. So that's what I'm keeping my eyes open for. Bifrost, can you quickly set up safe areas to work
Yes.
around and then claim territory through that?
It's a case of setting up where you're safe and pushing forward into where you're not and making it secure. On the other side, for Dusty though, you were talking about what Nishlai was saying. Trouble on the other side was talking a lot about how good Viking on Xin Zhao is and the Jinx Zhao combination.
Yeah.
It didn't work last game. That being said, they picked up a couple of components that were against them last time around in the Akali, the Ahri as well, and they've got a lot of really potent tools. So I'm watching Viking on the mini-map when he's not on our screens, beautiful young man, to see what he's going to do, because early game he was super impactful, but then it completely spiraled and fell off because he couldn't do anything. If he's going to have another impactful early game as Aleph taking a whole
He
heap of
doesn't have E.
damage.
So to say, you're not going to go away from that damage. Shikari walking up and monstering down Aleph in the early lane. Now, sometime through the mid-split, actually, I was getting a little worried for Aleph's laning phase.
Okay.
However, towards their win streak, things got obviously very, very good in the eye candy moments for Aleph, on particularly at the Gragas when he was playing that and towards the top lane as well. But still, Shikari, in terms of his laning phase, one of the very best we have in the league. So Aleph needing to stand up and be counted for in the laning phase.
But in the bot side, are we going to make it? Are we brave enough to make statements about if there's going to be action down here? Because last game, the team's completely baited.
Oh, I'm not brave enough for predictions.
So we're just going to, you know, these lanes exist. It is a very similar look to what we saw last game with 2 engaged spots.
Yeah, we're like one step better than object permanence, where it has to be on our screen for us to acknowledge it. Like, even when it's just off screen, we say, okay, technically it exists, but we'll wait until it becomes a little bit more relevant. And this game has already been such a more chill early game. We talked about Dusty exploding very early into the game, in the first 3-4 minutes, getting kills all across the top side. But speaking of that, might see something in the mid lane.
Charm from Backland, C-Boy diving through it. It's the flash having to be met very early, and this is a pre-6 Ahri.
It is, and so this is the duality of the Ahri Veigar matchup, where if you get control of that lane, things get awkward.
Oh, but things might be a bit awkward for Odie. He's taking damage, has to flash away from the Ignite, but now Duel's going to turn around and get CC himself, and in the top side, the flash is going to have to be blown by C-Boy. As Viking goes aggressive, it looks like Dusty want to print their authority on this game.
Okay, Aleph's coming up, so it's back low.
I saw it, it's first blood Aleph.
There we go. So I was wondering if Shikari could come and help him out, but 2 quick punches in a row from Dusty. Try to get towards this bot lane, potentially looking again.
Oh, diving on forward, looking towards Odie. He's going to be caught out. Damage going through. Venter actually falls. FTG will be able to get the assassination and survives, as Duel might be able to take him down in a good old-fashioned episode of Support or Combat. That dive went so wrong.
How does that happen? I mean, the Ignite is still there from Dual and dumps that down, and Venza, who dies without able to get resets, run off, and at least make it into just a 1-for-1. Aphelios is still losing the wave. That's the one bonus to this, but Dusty, this is not nearly as clean as the first couple of minutes they had in that first game, and if they couldn't play it out with that victory, you have to start asking what's going to happen with this one. Of course, see Viking, once again, just really taking the fight to C-Boy in the first couple of levels, but while this is happening, top lane is starting to brawl, and because Lee Sin is stuck between the two encroaching sides of this fight from Dusty, he gets taken down. We have to see again what happens to this bot lane dive, because again I assume that all of this aggro is taken up by FGG. There's a cleanse used, but even with that huge amount of base damage coming out from Leona, takes down the Jinx, and of course no heal to give themselves more HP to play with. And
then it's going to fall down as well as Bifrost. Even out the scoreline, 2-2 in the early stages. In the bot lane, there's another fight, though, as Leona could be in a little bit of trouble. The shield is up, and the damage is there only on the backside. C-Boy moving in, and it's actually FGG who goes lowest. Dual moves forward, gets a stab, but does go down. Viking moves into the alcove, but there's no safe haven, as he'll be taken out by Odie. Once again, Bifrost response.
So it took us a game for us to get a more bot-centric look at things.
It's because we didn't mention it.
There we go. That's the one. Once you mention it, wow, maybe my knowledge of quantum physics finally coming in useful. Once you actually recognize that it collapses into a bot lane fight, Dusty sending down 3 people first, but Leona is so tanky. Gets a lot of value out of soaking up the damage towards the start of that fight. Does go down for the attempt, but still, I think you trade that with a kill of Xin Zhao onto a kill of the Aphelios.
Which isn't necessarily optimal. Viking, of course, getting some kills is nice, but in the early game, he was stronger last time around and didn't make anything of it. Now we're going to have to see...
into a Veigar too.
Can he make more with less?
I really wonder, because I felt like there was more than enough setup last game to actually utilize that lead which you had. Of course, they couldn't do it at that point, so it's less a case of can they, because I think they could in both of these games. Just will they? From what we've seen in game 1, sadly not. Need to see again a step up from that first game if they do want to turn this crushing game 1 around, and put themselves back into the question of, can you progress forwards into the next stage, get to that finals, get yourself a berth at EU Masters?
Yeah, Backlund going to be caught up in the cage once again. The damage coming on through. C-Boys there, not level 6 yet, but can dive forward for the kill. Secured by Fury. It's really just that straightforward.
It was, but I feel like Viking was in position to respond and took like an extra second to turn around and get to that fight, was heading down towards the river, and either way, Backlund pushes up, was in a risky position, needed Viking to be there, and whoever called for that play is left with a bit of egg on their face.
Well, I mean, it's Backlund who ended up dying, so maybe he's in a bit of trouble, but Duel gonna just sneak on out. Of course, is a level down on FGG because he went top lane for a little bit of a potential play. He couldn't find anything onto Aleph, who at the moment is maybe the only player on Dusty who's ahead of their opponent in terms of where they should be at this point in the game. You can look at gold very quickly at the bottom of your screen. Yeah, that's a 500 advantage, but the rest of the map is not looking so brilliant for Bifrost. But that said, not as bad as it potentially could be.
No, again, it's within reach of each other. Slight gold lead to the side of Dusty, even though the kill went over to the side of Bifrost. Of course, we're coming up to the Herald now, though. That was where a lot of the gold advantage was traded around in Game 1, where we saw, okay, plates given to a Jinx left alone in their own lane, but the Herald's picked up, and then there was a lot of dividends picked up for that later on. 8 minutes is hit, Herald is spawned, Vikings on it.
And this is different from what we saw last time around, because last time around it was Dusty who decided to leave that one back and push into the bot side. And now it's Aphelios who's going to be alone down there, going to be able to pick up some well-earned gold.
Can we just have a quick look towards what weapons Aphelios has got? If we could just hover over towards bot lane. Even actually, you know what?
Bifrost to think about fights.
Let's cancel that. He has those weapons. Either way, not relevant.
It's got Infernum and Severum.
Because if you have yourself the Crescendum, those turrets shred. He's staying in bot lane. That'll change
FGG going forward. Chompers down as well. They've caught onto Leona, caught in the cage, just flashing away from the ultimate from Venter, but he's still moving forward. Backlund there as well, diving in. That will be one, and they've got themselves the Herald as well. Okay. Nice play from Dusty. How much can Aphelios get bot to respond?
Well, that's because we're looking at these weapons. You think, okay, you have yourself the Severum and a Crescendum, or the turrets to drop down. You kill turrets a lot quicker. As it stands, it's one plate. Maybe if you organize your weapons a little more efficiently towards tower killing, that could have worked out. But you can see, because Odie looked to walk up towards river, I wonder if there was a split call, actually. The body language would suggest that, potentially looking into get themselves towards a fight rather than say towards attack. Either way, Bifrost not getting great value from the immediate response, losing a kill, losing the Herald, so they're going to lose the long-term impact of that play too.
And I mean, now they've got themselves the gold Impetua in pocket. Xin Zhao's going to be able to decide where to land that one. You've got Venter on the Jinx, of course, a player who we know can do really good work on this champion.
Oh, catch on the recall!
On, though, and Venter can do good work, but he can also do that. Venter, why?
Oh, I mean, I get that he's so far back in the lane, and you get that the Aphelios is showing on the midi wave the other side, blah, blah, blah. You think, okay, surely you're safe at this point, but I don't know how much to really throw that onto Venza at that point, but there have been a couple of times now where, oh, Shikari's now on the bad end of a trade.
Yeah, gonna get hit by the Ignite, the damage coming through, but Aleph not able to secure the ultimate and the kill as Gnar dives back.
There's close run thing on the top side, sadly not able to even up a map-wide 1-for-1, I suppose, between the two teams. And again, Venza had a rough game 1, caught out at a lot of different points, and we thought we'd done away with that narrative after week 5 or so. He was struggling in the early split, dying quite a lot. He really turned around towards the back end of the split, but struggling once again here.
I'm concerned because we saw this a little bit on Monday. Even though they 3-0'd, there were a couple of times where Goldberg would turn to me and say, why is Venza there? And it'll be like, no, the question is, why is Venza
it's technically because he right-clicked there and he eventually, his character model arrived at the location.
Well, occasionally he'd be dragged there by CC.
Occasionally, yeah. Crazy how that works.
Something that's very interesting to note as well in this game, as we just saw the first Dragon secured by Bifrost. That's not any hot news because they got all 4 last game. The hot news is it took them almost 11 minutes to do so. And it seems like Dusty had a slower early game this time around, but if you look at the gold lead at the top of your screen, you look at the momentum meter, the analysis seems to be, they're still doing pretty good.
So, do I agree with that? I feel like it's pretty even there. Analysis in the back room. I feel like it's fairly even, all things said and done. I mean, you do have, okay, now in fairness, you do have a slight lead in terms of CS, in terms of the AD carries still. Akali getting a kill is always a little worrying, But I feel like if this game isn't accelerated too much from the side of Dusty, it's going to...
Enzer in trouble, caught out by the Leona. The ultimate coming up for her as well. He's rooted for ages as he has to run back towards the Leona, but now she's in trouble. The ultimate will land, but it's not going to get the kill. The charge comes through, doesn't take the tower, but a couple of plates go into the bot side, as in the mid lane, it's another cage. There's more damage coming through from the Veigar. Flashes forward, can't find range for the ultimate, so Ahri survives.
Ahri survives, is going to lose the ult, but taking away the flash from the Veigar potentially gives another option later on. So it's not going to be the full first turret taken with the Herald. It's still 4 plates down from that bot lane turret. However, because C-Boy's hanging around in the area, it might not be the end of the story yet.
GFGG going for it, Odie flashing back.
And FCG, again, reminder, undefeated on this champion this split, looking to make one of those engaged plays yet again. The role which he's fulfilled over so many games for this team. Might have to find another big play on the turret here again, though. C-Boy.
C-Boy's looking to try and get a dive through, diving away from FGG, decides, hey, going on to tower against the Nautilus, probably not the best idea in this situation, and does manage to move back with Venza once again taking a beating, and this time around it's just because of the damage that comes out of Aphelios.
Well, you have those chakrams stacked up, and you hit them with a moonshot from the Calibrum, and things get really, really dangerous. Of course, Venza on a low level 8. Jinx does not have much of a HP pool to speak of, and now with the correct tower killing.
I was going to say, look at that.
Odie gets to really shred through this play. So it takes him a while to get to it. It's not actually at the actual death of the Herald where Bifrost respond in kind with bot lane pressure. Oh, Backland's caught.
Yeah, he's just very dead.
He had a flash, chose not to use it. Popped the W a little bit late too, and didn't get the full duration of the move speed. Maybe didn't understand that Bifrost were moving so many fields to the mid lane, but Backland gives up a bit of a freebie. Sad times there for Dusty's mid laner, and now 2 kills onto the Veigar, and Fury's feeling pretty happy about things.
And this is the thing, because this Veigar is very strong in these early stages. He's not going anywhere. The tankiness is going to start coming through, you've got to imagine, because he gets so much intrinsic stacking up. It's very similar to the Rise, as it were. You can go for those slightly tanky items, get yourself some mana, get yourself some
I'm actually
damage.
interested in what that tier is going into. If you mention that, it's like, oh, is there any chance of getting a Fimbul Winter saying, haha, shields from Cage? I doubt that's going to be the case, right? Because you're likely going towards the Seraphs just to be like, more CDR, more cages.
This is a secret, it's Mura mana.
Never say that again in my presence. You look at me here, Will. You never say that again.
You're out here like, oh, AD Ahri, that's so fun. Mura mana and Veigar, no.
No, it's absolutely forbidden. Just as apparently Shikari is now forbidden to enter this top lane. His top lane has been requisitioned by the duo lane of Bifrost. And that now is going to waddle his way down towards the bot side and take over those lanes instead.
Viking just hanging out, being a little bit more aggressive, but there's no one to aggress on. It's got to the point where ganking any of these lanes is pretty difficult for Xin Zhao, because the early stages where you can go in and scrap, and that's what he did. First game very well, second game a little bit less well. Backland has to flash away from the Veigar, but he's been doing that all game.
And if you're going to permanently push into the Veigar, you need... I mean, wait, hang on. Did they actually see C-Boy coming around there? Because Viking was in this
genius. It's one auto, it's 2. He's caught out, he's on autopilot, and he will fool Viking. I don't know how he made that play work.
I have no idea. I guess because C-Boy just walked through the area and thinks, well, we just got a free flash out of it. Surely they didn't see me coming. Well, they did on the way back out, and it's a freebie in the other direction. Seen a couple of them giving up. Actually, fairly sloppy around playing around vision, both of these teams in this early game. Now we reached the 15 minutes, and oh, C-Boy comes in straight through lane. I actually didn't realize if he came through the Raptor Pit side of things, but there were lots of wood down there. So either way, C-Boy goes back towards his top side, try to make his way back up towards his duo lane, but doesn't realize that there is a lot of Dusty members in that top side jungle, and goes down fairly easily.
Viking was hiding, and he is able to pick up the second Herald for himself as well. So, my question to you, Mr. Nightmare, as a...
Is it a difficult one? Can I do multi-choice?
As a scholar of League of Legends.
Okay.
Viking had trouble, and Dusty in general had trouble breaking down towers to make their lead stick. They haven't really got themselves a super hot lead this game. In fact, they're at a deficit right now. Is the second Herald going to be able to paper over the cracks a little bit? Aleph doesn't manage to find the dragon. It's going to be secured by Bifrost, second of the game, but he is moving forward, trying to make this play stick. But there are so many members of Bifrost there, and they have so much zone control. This is what Bifrost want to do to you, and they're going to pick up the first kill of the fight. FGG moving forward, taking a beating, managed to get some damage onto Tool, and he will fall. But Bifrost could look to turn this fight around. Venza takes a chunk.
Ouch.
And has to run away. Seaboy moving forward will land onto the Nautilus, but that's already the priority target. Dives through regardless, getting some damage down. The cage stops with his tracks, and his Fury securing a second. Don't engage into a Veigar and a Leona.
Oh, they try to pick up something because they think, okay, look, we've lost one kill. They've used some cooldowns. Maybe we can turn this around before they come back up. And they do get the 1-for-1. And then they stay a little bit beyond that point. That's the big egregious mistake from Dusty after that point. You asked me that question of how they turn things around. And, well, Shikari is going to lose his Mega Gnar, but Dusty, what do they do with this early game if they haven't been able to crack through their towers? Part of it is actually about finding the correct times to scrap in the correct way. And we see that in this replay because Aleph, this was always going to be a bit of a one-way trip. I don't quite get that one myself, but either way, sometimes it's about starting the fight at the right time and knowing that he had members in the area. Maybe he just didn't quite understand where the rest of Bifrost were in regards to that first member that he was chasing. Either way, turns out an extended couple of kills going to the favor of Bifrost and Venza. Bye for now.
Call out, but FGG is there this time around. Just gonna protect. He protect, he attack, but most importantly, Venza stand back.
That's actually not what he does very often.
Well, that's what FGG is saying.
Okay,
Because
right.
you tell I was doing the
so,
accent.
whoa, you actually
we
have
are into a team
communication.
fighters duel. It's going to be called out, rooted up, taken low, and secured. It's Venza who grabs the kill. See, the advice works.
This is just a coin flip of who's running into the enemy randomly next and getting caught off a vision, because it does feel like both these teams are choosing quite strange times to just be like, let's group 3-4 people together and see what we can do with this. And neither team is actually responding to that effectively well. They're not expecting to run into this amount of enemy team members at these points where they are getting caught. But after all that, we are back to pretty much even gold. Mid lane tower now falling to the favor of Dusty, so they have their own one tower up there too. See if they can transfer that into vision control themselves. Got to see those blue wards starting to litter parts of the enemy jungle. But what's that actually going to lead to at this point? Because Bifrost are back out onto the map. We can see a lot of resets coming through from Dusty. Can they actually, can Dusty hold on to that vision advantage?
And if they hold on to Vision advantage, what can they do? What does Vision really achieve for Dusty in this situation?
See champion, kill champion.
Okay.
That tends to be what they do with this comp. It's like, sweet, Akali, you can jump at someone right now, as opposed to running into a cage and dying. Members. That one's less good. But Ari's doing a similar thing, Jhin Zhao's doing a similar thing. And most importantly, if you don't see Veigar there, you're fairly happy, as long as you either see Veigar on their own or you see someone else without Veigar nearby to cage you. I think that's what you're really looking for. You're looking for the information to be won so you can use your mobility and your skirmishing / assassination potential to really start picking apart Bifrost as they're starting to move between areas of the map. I think that's what we're looking for next. So keep an eye out for that. And whether that's actually up around big objectives. Of course, we don't have the Baron up right now. Dragon's coming up at a similar time to when's that spawning, just an extra 40 seconds after that point or so. So let's see if Dusty can keep that vision line up and whether Bifrost can keep themselves safe when they're wandering around different areas of the map.
And if they are going to be brave enough to go into areas that don't necessarily belong to them right now.
There's like bits on the minimap where it's just like, here be dragons.
Well, there's one very specific area that's got...
Oh, yeah, besides the one bit where there are actually dragons, yeah.
You can only get dragons if you've got Shyvana.
Right.
Watch NLC Division 2, kids. It was wild.
Aurelion Sol is not even as much as a champion to be called that right now.
Oh, yeah,
also not much of a support. He's getting caught.
He's still caught out once again. Very, very tanky. A lot of CC's been thrown down, though. I think he'll be left to the wolves as another kill is secured. And it is Duel who's been the target. Leona not necessarily priority, but Dusty are making it work.
I was about to say, this is, I mean, I know that buildings have support structures. This one seems to have a couple of cracks in it, as Duel's been caught out 5 times in 20 minutes. And again, you feel like these engaged supports really are going to be just biting that bullet every time, just hoping that they can get a moment to buy their carry some time, to some space to farm and to get XP and to get onto the map. But it does feel like both these teams are erring on the disrespectful side of that, and they're getting pulled apart very easily for my liking.
Got 20 minutes on the clock. Of course, Baron is on the Rift right now. Neither of the teams necessarily going to be wanting to try and brute force it, but when we're talking about people who want to control Baron area, hey ho, Bifrost. Also, the fact of the matter is, if you're Dusty, you think, hey, we're going to start this all up, your magic resistance gets shredded, and then suddenly 219 stacks on Vigar looks very, very spooky.
And they are looking to control areas of the river, but you see Bifrost, they're like, wait, how many people do we spot over there? Not all 5 of them. If Akali gets to the backline, things get really dangerous. Now, there is a death cap on Fury coming straight into this, but again, Dusty have members on either side of this fight. They're not making this a one-directional affair.
I mean, Alef's going to try and dive on through, but the real fight's in the river as Duel once again, the one caught out. Oh, Carly needs to be careful as Backlund moves forward, lands the charm, but it's not into priority member as Alef's in trouble, gets soloed by Shikari. C-Boy dives through and dies though, but so much work being done by Odie, who's going to step forward but gets caught out and removed. Now Duel's in trouble, doesn't get caught out the first time, but has to flash the wall. Backlund follows with the ultimate and should be able to get the kill, flashing away from the Gnar ultimate. The wind becomes lightning for Viking, and he's going to be able to secure that one. Dusty somehow won the fight.
Oh, Winter Lightning, ashes to ashes, dust to dust in this team fight as Dusty very, very barely come away with a team fight because Alef was dueling Shikari on the side. That did lead to Akali dying, but there was no big Mega Gnar to stop Dusty from running over the rest of this fight. We saw that Jinx got a lot of damage down, but I'm interested in seeing what the heck happens with this Veigar, because Veigar gets half health very, very quickly. Xin Zhao has no damage chunked into him on the same side, and then at this point you have to stand so far back, and it's the hook. Of course it's the hook which ends up finishing him. And FGG, really, really important moment in there. Of course things go from one side to the other as a house takes down Jinx and really stops Bifrost from losing huge amounts from this. But still, that's a bit of a awkward moment for them as they were taking a lot of fights. They were losing a couple of these picks, but they were still somewhat in control. Losing a dragon like that and losing a fight is a little bit awkward for them now.
Absolutely, and you can see Dusty feeling pretty decent about that one. Grab themselves the first dragon of the series, it should be noted.
Yeah,
so going to be slowing that one down. Cloud Dragon's not necessarily the most impactful thing in the world, unfortunately for it.
I think in this game, when you're dealing with Veigar cages, I feel like it's actually quite important. Because there are a lot of times where like you walk into a Veigar and it's like, haha, cage, and they're like, I'm actually slightly faster now. That helps quite a lot, thank you. There's stuff like that. You have a lot of low-range champions trying to make your way into the confrontation, and of course you try to pick people off by walking around the map. So actually just the rift itself is quite important for both these teams, particularly Dusty as they're trying to, again, as we saw in that last fight, make things more than just about one direction, run into all the CC. So I feel like Dusty, they benefit a bit from this if they utilize it correctly. However, if you're walking into areas like this and the cage becomes very important, this kind of stuff happens.
And also being thrown at FGG, not much being achieved. Now C-Boy's diving off, looking for the kick, but can't find it. Finds it off finally, but he's going to go down to Backlund on the back. As you can see, Shikari moving on forward. This could be impactful. They managed to get the kill onto Alef in Vent's backline. Vent gets caught. No ultimate from the Gnar now, though, as he throws another Volt. Not going to be able to secure anything. Backlund forced to ult away with that last charge from the cage. But again, it's going to be an even trade.
Even-ish. Well, I mean, Alef does end, of course, dying in that one, but you can see how difficult it is for both teams to establish vision in a safe manner, and it's becoming more and more important. Both teams really realize, okay, we got to protect this vision. Let's just stand on top of it. But CY gets a little bit bold in this one. Hits, of course, the Sonic Wave, and follows up with a Resonating Strike, but he is not that tanky. He tries to find his way out of it, but these fights become so brutal so quickly. And actually, I think what's really helping Dusty at this point is the fights are happening in such a short time scale. Almost like 2/3 of the fight are covered by a Xin Zhao ultimate. So Viking is getting lots of value out. The fights go longer. Maybe we'll see that start turning around again, but as it starts with the short fights, Dusty are just about piloting it to their advantage, although it's close. That one, of course, is very even.
And I mean, something that should be noticed as well is that we are yet to see Shikari effectively contribute to a team fight. Because he's always getting there a little bit late. Maybe the Mega Gnar isn't quite stacked up, but he goes in and
the Dragon One, you think, oh yeah, you know, he got 2 kills. But still, that's not the Mega Gnar to save the rest of his team. It's like, yeah, he's still having an impact, but it's not quite enough to do what the team comp needs to actually allow his carries to survive.
It's not a case of him saying, look, I'm going to get this massive one, we're going to win this team fight outright. It's a case of, I'm going to throw a house directly into Venza's face and secure the kill.
Here, that's not very good for sure. No, 9 out of 10 doctors would not recommend that.
And the other doctor is Mundo, and he doesn't have a license. No. So...
Slander! Lies and slander!
That's true. I think he admits it at one point.
I believe he says something to... you know, I haven't checked all of the new voice lines.
He's gone into business from what I hear anyway.
the numbers do go up. The stonks are rising quite heavily. And of course, in this game, sadly for Dusty, their stonks have met themselves a bit of a plateau because they came in, of course, with that win streak again, 9-0, coming into this. And they got completely thrown out the window by Frost in game 1. And it was not pretty, and it was a bit of a slap. But in this game, they actually, credit to them, hadn't fallen apart. We were asking questions of them saying, actually, how do you come back from a victory like that, or rather defeat like that, and come back on and show a good game? They found some way to do that. Mental hasn't fallen apart in this one. And they're still, again, competing very, very closely. So we'll live to see if they can win this game too.
And honestly, things are looking fairly okay for them. We've got Dragon at 40 seconds, which will probably be the next battleground. Of course, Baron's on the Rift, but again, brute forcing it is not wise. And I think both of these teams, of course, 2 of our top 3 teams here in the NLC this season when it comes to playoffs. One of them going to European Masters, one of them going home with nothing, asterisk. They probably will get something, but not a European Masters.
It's not quite the same level of prestige, we'll call it that way. I mean, and as much as, actually speaking of that, again, a lot of the players on these teams have been to European Masters before. Actually, last split, we had C-Boy from Bifrost, D2K, their coach as well. They were over on Matchco, I believe, so they were there last split. You had Odie and Zuol, both hanging around on different teams too. And then we've had people go to, you know, different 2019 splits as well a little while ago. But all of that's being said, Baron was started and pulled off of as we had a quick story time. Luckily, it didn't come to a head, and got ourselves again a bit of a lull at this point. Yet, I think maybe teams are less likely to go beyond their vision lines at this point because they've been punished so much at this point.
There's a lot of damage onto C-Boy. Watch Alif on the backside looking for a flank. Needs to be careful, but a nice catch. One again onto Duel, and the backside Backlund gets damaged through as C-Boy dives away. Duel can't do that though, and he's going to go down first victim of the fight. Another one goes through, but it's traded. It's a 1-for-1 as Fury puts down the cage, but Odie's all alone. Venza needs to be careful. The minions are trying to do their best, but Aphelios is the one that goes down. But meanwhile, C-Boy diving forward, looking for Ari, cannot find him as Fury and C-Boy limp away.
And as we're talking about the Baron saying, oh, things are slowed down, they don't want to go beyond their vision because that's been the real death blow for so many of these fights. And Bifrost, they know the Baron's going down, their hand has been forced, and Backlund takes out a chunk just before they engage. The hook comes through, forces the issue after that point, and Dusty, they've managed to hold on after a bit of a rocky early game in this time and get themselves the first real advantage in this game between the 2 teams.
And I mean, Bifrost set themselves up for Dragon Soul as a very, very small consolation, but let's have another look at this team fight.
So again, Backlund playing goalkeeper a little bit, ALF of course on the other side, looking to close out things. And this is a very, very nice approach by Dusty. They have the solo laners in range on different angles to make sure that there are too many angles to cover for the side of Bifrost, and Veigar doesn't get the best value out of his kit. Venza very nearly dies on the back end of this. If they had taken down the AD carry, maybe that's not a Baron. Things, again, very close to the wire between these 2 teams, but Dusty love the way that they approached that fight. Bifrost, sadly for them, they were kind of forced into that position. I don't necessarily think it's a mistake to go the way that they did. It's just they were forced into an awful situation. They paid the price for it.
And now they've paid the price with the Baron buff going to be secured on 2 members of Dusty. I believe it's Baron on 4.
Yes, I think that was just the one person going down. Yeah, I believe so. Unless FGG randomly died at the end, I don't think he did. Alef, of course, Alef got a dark matter to the face, which was not so nice. As Fury still putting out huge amounts of damage, and has Anathema's changed third now. So if you're diving in and you think, haha, I'm going to go in, and you don't check your hotbar to really, and you can see it's actually on Ari there as we're hovering over the champion. Backlund goes in and goes, sweet, I'm going to go in for an Everfrost to see if I can root people up, and you go into the cage, you are not moving for a great amount of time, and you're probably going to die horribly during it.
Which is exactly what Veigar wants to do. That is
actually what the champion does. That is exactly what he does.
He is evil. Stop laughing.
Sorry.
Thank you. Dusty have found themselves this Baron and moving up towards the top side, going to be able to secure the top lane tower. And hey, they've managed to get territory. This is deeper than they went in game number 1. And you know what? Maybe the trick for Dusty is Viking not getting loads of early kills.
Maybe. Well, I mean, you say that. He's still 4-1-9, leading the charge. And a lot of these fights too, we talked about how his ultimate was so impactful in the mid game, getting close towards the real late game at this point, though, cresting 30 minutes. And Dusty, they get themselves the Baron buff, grouping up a little more, but how quickly can they actually siege down these turrets? Again, the cage becomes so annoying to play against if you try and go for dives. You're not really emboldened to do that. They're still finding themselves some structures across the board. This is not going to be a base-breaking Baron, however.
No, it's not going to be, which, I mean, for first Baron in a very contested game is not the
It's
end
not
of the world.
likely to. However, against this comp with what you've bringing to the table too, you are unlikely to reach inhibitor turrets and realistically threaten them.
Yeah, I mean, with first Baron, the rule has generally been taking everything outside the base on first Baron is very nice. It's kind of the anything better is very, very good. Anything less is kind of like, eh. I mean, we'd rather get all that stuff, but it's okay. And for Dusty, they've grabbed themselves all but one. That bot lane tower still standing. They've got a little bit of time on Baron left, but it's really going to be negligible.
That's housekeeping time. It's just like, sweet, we've got enough to keep our minions alive to push them into the enemy side of the map again. You can see that 3 members of Bifrost are stuck under their mid lane, well, the remains of the mid lane in a turret. Of course, that was taken as one of the structures during this push. And after all is said and done, what was an even game before that fight, really, has now exploded into a 5.5k gold lead. And you're going to have, yes, Shikari pushing out top lane and trying to regain some territory across the map in their own right, push up some waves. They can at least have one area of the map they can put down vision and then play around. But Dusty, much more in control of this game as they have been in either the first game or the remainder of the second game, however.
And I mean, it's mo money, mo momentum, according to our analysts, but it's going to be a lot of damage going on to Aleph, who's going to go gold, and C-Boy has actually taken up tower. Vikings turning up, but there really wasn't a health bar to work with. This might save the tower, though.
It does. I mean, you're still getting away. Well, I mean, I was about to say, you're getting away. No, the Baron buff's already off, so that actually doesn't really apply to that much. It's just Aleph, sadly on the Akali, not finding the best angle, or rather, like, he has not been the beneficiary of the team fights. He's not got a lot of the kills. Again, we've seen that Venza has picked up quite a lot through this. Of course, the Ahri and the Xin Zhao in a similar kind of way. But the Akali has been sat there going like, hey, yeah, I'm going, and just gets blasted, and they're the one person that's getting blasted so the rest of the team can succeed. Question is, actually, at 1 and 5, are you now at a point where Bifrost can throw less at you, and you have less impact on those flanks, which, again, you have been contributing quite heavily to?
You got to feel enough fights in the offing now. You got Dragon up in 20. It's Soul for Bifrost, and as you mentioned, it's very, very nice to have against the Vygar. So Vygar's team definitely wants to secure it. FGG off to the side now. He's pretending to be Akali, looking for the flank.
Well, this is a pretty nice flank. I like this one. Question is, of course, what are the targets you can actually find, and can your team follow up in a timely enough fashion? Aleph channeling the teleport will be seen. It's on that vision ward. You can see that was in Fog of War.
And now Aleph's just gonna run on through, just puts up the sweeper, but could be in trouble. Shikari's there, but he doesn't know that FGG is there, but he's just spotted him as he stands still. The Dragon Speed started up, Viking caught in the cage, diving forward. Can't find too much. FGG's being tasted away as Shikari's getting mad. This could be the opportunity. It's all over the shot. Everyone goes low. The shutdown onto Backlund on the side to start us off. Viking in the back of the pit will be called out, diving forward, pushed back and deleted. It's Dusty still fighting though. Aleph running around, diving out. FGG also there, but C-Boy's chasing through. The Dragon Soul secured. That's the execution. It's all going wrong as FGG running the final survivor, but C-Boy may well take him. It will take a while, but it should be the ace. C-Boy actually going to be caught up under his tower. This is kind of a little bit irrelevant, but I think
well, the rest of the team's pushing mid. I mean, I feel like that's it. I feel like the straw is finally broken.
But that is the straw that broke the cancer. And momentum felt like it was with Dusty until the end. But right now, we've got Bifrost, who are going 2-0 up in this series. How did that go so wrong so fast?
And that is a clinical finish by Bifrost, don't get me wrong. And all praise to them for that, but that game was in Dusty's hands. They threw it at that Dragon fight. They had really awkward execution on that team fight, and they were hugely punished for it.
I mean, punished with the Nexus, which is the biggest punish.
Normally not a very good trade.
Trading your Nexus for anything is usually fairly bad, but now the problem here that I'm seeing, Dusty have lost twice. That is a back-breaking defeat because Dusty probably should have gone through further and further into that game. I'm not gonna say they should have guaranteed won it, but it was their game to lose, and they did. Problem now is, we haven't seen them go 2-0 down in a series.
Well, we haven't seen them go 1-0 down in a series. Again, like, we're just doubling down on this continual issue of they've played well from leads, they had the streak, but it always leaves that question open of what happens when you're on the other side of that. Now, this was actually a fairly decent response. Again, I feel like they were in prime position to win that game. And then in that last fight, we saw Ahri dash into a Vygar cage. We saw that Gnar 1v2 the Akali and the Nautilus, who are two incredibly important people in terms of shutting down that backline. And Dusty had all the wrong chess pieces on all the wrong places of the board.
And we're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, as our analysts who are going to try and break down the chessboard. Hopefully they don't flip it. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.